So here we go again. It's the WWE Podcast with Aiden Willis, another weekly episode, bringing you something different this week. What I want to do is give you a Super Showdown preview and a bit of a prediction show. I'm going to give you a little bit of a news thing right at the end. There's not too much this week. A lot of it's all predictions for Super Showdown and sort of a preview. So I'm going to give you that, and then next week it will be back to normal. Back with some predictions, bit of review of the normal shows, SmackDown and Raw, and then along with the rumours and the news as usual. Now, I'm recording it on a Sunday. I'm sure if you listen to my podcast episodes, you'll understand that I'm a big fan of boxing also. Big night last night. Tyson Fury, UK versus America. The Brits have won, which I'm super happy about, and obviously his relations with WWE, which is absolutely fantastic. So I am in a great mood recording this. Now, so as I said, we've got Super Showdown coming up on Thursday the 27th in Saudi Arabia. Now, I'm not too excited for it, I must admit. I never really get behind the Saudi events too much. I mean, last year was a bit different, just because you had different matchups, which I'll mention a little bit later. But this year you've sort of got the same normal matchups with not really much build-up that they're trying to portray for this big event, this big spectacular event in Saudi Arabia, that ultimately I can't see much happening that isn't too out the ordinary. But anyway, we'll move on. As we found out on SmackDown, we've got Naomi versus Bayley for Bayley's women's title. Now, I hope Naomi wins. I can't actually see Naomi wins. I think if there's going to be a title change, it's probably more likely to be this one. But they don't normally do a title change at a Saudi event. I know they have done, but it's not normally one of the big titles. Which this match is a little bit strange, because I believe there was an announcement that it was going to be Alexa Bliss versus Carmella versus Dana Brooke versus Naomi in sort of like a fatal four-way match that would the winner would then go on to face Bayley for the title. Now, they seem to have pulled that or scrapped that. Now, if that was just a rumour or speculation, then of course it was never announced. But if that was actually announced and had some weight behind it, for whatever reason they decided to go against it. Now, we know it's not always easy to have women compete out there in Saudi Arabia for whatever reasons. We've had Lacey Evans versus Natalia before. So whether they didn't like the idea of all four women or just didn't like the idea of the match, we don't know. But ultimately that match has been announced. I'm hoping Naomi wins. As I've said so many times before, I'm not keen on Bayley. I'm not keen on her as a champion. And then if Naomi wins, I'm hoping that her and Carmella could have a feud. But I think Bayley will probably keep in the title picture up until WrestleMania. I think that's probably where they're going, unless Sasha Banks has a return from injury. But I'll let that one play out. I'm not too sure at the moment which way they're going to go. I can see Naomi winning the title at some point. Whether it's going to be on Thursday, I would probably say not. But as I've said, it's probably the only title that is likely to change hands. Then we've got Reigns versus Corbin in a cage match. Now, this one should be good. It will be a good match. It should have some good spots. I'm hoping there's no interruptions. I'm hoping there's no involvements from anyone else, and they just let it have a one-on-one match with some good spots, some good in-ring moments, and then hopefully this puts an end to that feud. I, for one, are getting bored of it. Reigns can go on to somewhere else. It's looking likely that he's going to have a match against The Fiend at WrestleMania, or potentially Goldberg or John Cena. It probably won't happen, but more likely The Fiend. And then Corbin can create another feud with someone else, being the heel, playing that fantastic heel role he's done for so long. He's a natural heel. He gets so much good heat, which I believe it's good heat from the crowd, from the people at home, from people on social media. I think he's a loved heel rather than a hated heel, what I would like to say, because a hated heel is more like, please just get off the telly, where a loved heel is more, I hate you, I don't like you, but actually I love the character, I love the way you play it, and everything like that. So that will happen I would put money on that happening, that feud is pretty much dead in the water now, especially after Saudi Arabia, so this will be the end. Roman Reigns will get a nice clean win, hopefully, and then they'll move on. Maybe reignite the feud in the future, because it was a good feud. They just need to give it some time, reignite that feud in the future, really build it up again, and give people that little bit of a break with other matches for Reigns and Corbin. I don't think there's anything too surprising that's going to go on here, and I think it'll be a good end to the feud, even though it should have happened earlier. It's dragged on a little bit, but it'll be a nice end to what was a good feud, and then it will set up WrestleMania matches for them both with someone else. What else we've got is a two-wake, I think I'm saying that right, or two-wake trophy gauntlet match. Anyway, it's a gauntlet match with Rusev, R-Truth, Andrade, Eric Rowan, Bobby Lashley and AJ Styles. I believe that's all the superstars, or that's all the superstars that I've seen being announced. Now, it's a good match. The only thing is that I'd like some other superstars to be in there, like Humberto Carrillo. I don't know why he's not there. I'm not sure why he's not there, unless it's because Andrade's there, unless he's going to fill the space of Andrade, unless I've completely missed that. I know Aleister Black can't be there because of his tattoos. I know Saudi Arabia have opinions or beliefs against tattoos. They don't really feel like it's traditional, I believe, in their culture, which is fair enough. And obviously he's covered in them. And I think some of them are like demons and Satan and stuff like that. So a lot on the darker side, which again, it's not really what they believe in. So I don't think he's allowed to go over, or maybe they're just not taking the risk. With other tattoos, I think they accept, like the AJ Styles tattoo. He doesn't really have anything. He's got the writing on his side, and then Roman Reigns is a tribal tattoo, and also he wears obviously the vest, so it covers a little bit. And I don't think they've got too much of a problem with tribal tattoos. But then again, Roman Reigns is a massive superstar to not go. Whereas Aleister Black, if the Saudi fans weren't to see him, would they be that bothered? I don't think they would be. If they weren't going to see Roman Reigns, they would probably kick up a fuss. I think everyone would. I think any fan would, really, because he's one of the biggest stars there. So I think that makes a bit of a difference. Now, going on to the match, I think it should be quite a good match. I'm hoping all of them have a good performance, have quite a bit of time in the ring, not just like get eliminated straight away and then the next person comes out. I'm sure R-Truth will have some sort of funny moment. I'm sure he's not in there to actually even try and win it. He's just going to have some humour, which he's perfect at. We've got Bobby Lashley probably going to have a one-on-one part with Rusev. I think that's inevitable. Hopefully that is a little bit better than what they've done so far, or they're just going to kill it off and they won't actually put them one-on-one, which I'd be quite happy with. I think Rusev needs a bigger build. He needs some respect now that he's a good in-ring superstar and he's not getting the exposure or maybe the storylines or the matches that he deserves. I think he's been right to the top and he's been consistent all the way through, and then all of a sudden to throw him under the bus with Bobby Lashley and keep getting squashed. What I'm seeing is him getting squashed anyway. He's quite disrespectful. He's quite undermining to his character, really, and especially how well he's done over the years. Now, if Andrade has served his full 30-day suspension, then he'll be back. That'll be probably quite a good match to see him return in as well, because it doesn't really mean a lot. He won't win, so it's probably quite a good match just to come back to. If he's not in it, it'll probably be Humberto Carrillo, unless I've missed something as to why he won't be in Saudi Arabia. We've got Eric Rowan, which I really hope he has a good match. I'm sure you saw on Raw that he had a match with Aleister Black. Now, I said in a previous episode that I actually wanted and I predicted that they would do this feud. Now, obviously, it's early doors. It's only been one match. We don't really know how it's going to play out. Hopefully, it continues. I feel like if they have another match, Eric Rowan's got to squash him quite easily in a way and show his power and show his dominance, because Aleister Black really did that against him. But I think the feud with both their characters being quite dark characters, I think Aleister Black could have a fantastic storyline trying to get into the cage not as in into the cage, obviously it's a tiny cage, but into the meaning of the cage, or what is in the cage, or what's underneath that little blanket that he puts over the cage. So I think the characters work well together. I think the whole demeanours behind the personalities will work, and I'm quite excited to see how this feud plays out. I'm sure the in-ring ability will be good, because it will be a feud that isn't actually that popular, isn't one of the matches that's going to get particularly loads of limelight, isn't going to be like main event in the show. But if you look back at the Aleister Black and Buddy Murphy match, now look at Buddy Murphy. He's gone on to absolutely flying things with Seth Rollins in that little faction with the AOP. And the in-ring ability of that we were watching, the performances that we were watching of Black against Murphy was incredible. So if Rowan could even emulate that a tiny little bit in some matches with Black, it would be brilliant, especially with the characters. Now, going back to the gauntlet match, the 2-weight gauntlet match. Now, the only other person I haven't mentioned that has been confirmed is AJ Styles. Now, it's most likely he's going to win. He's the biggest star. I think if he didn't win, it would make him look silly. It would make him look smaller than his character is. He's a main eventer. He has been for such a long time, and he always will be. Now, him on Raw, mentioning all the legends and mentioning some names. He mentioned The Undertaker. Now, they're obviously building towards an Undertaker match at WrestleMania. I think that's inevitable by the amount of sound and the amount of weight they've got behind these rumours. It's looking very, very likely. There is a new rumour that I've seen that AJ Styles might go up against Shawn Michaels if The Undertaker isn't going to work WrestleMania, because he's playing off as the new Mr. WrestleMania. Well, obviously Shawn Michaels was Mr. WrestleMania. So whether he's going to be incorporated in the feud in some way, or they're playing around and putting some feelers out with what the fans would like, whether it be AJ Styles versus Undertaker or AJ Styles versus Shawn Michaels, we'll have to see. I think it's more likely that it will be The Undertaker from what I've seen, from what I've read, from what I've heard. Obviously, you get some rumours that are saying that when AJ Styles wins this gauntlet match, that Undertaker could return and attack him. I would say yes if it wasn't in Saudi Arabia. I mean, Saudi Arabia's love legends, as you know, so I wouldn't put it past them, but I think The Undertaker going all that way just to turn up and attack him after a match, I think it's probably not going to happen. The only way that I would personally do it, if that is the case, is have him win, have the Good Brothers or the OC come out and celebrate with him, and then the gong go, because that would in itself tell you that the Undertaker's after him, and then AJ Styles could address it. They don't even have to show up. He doesn't have to even be there. He doesn't have to attack the OC. He doesn't have to touch AJ Styles in any way, even just to put his hat in the ring, or some little vignette, or just some smoke coming from the stage area. I think that would probably be quite good. The only thing is, I don't really feel like it's that great sort of show in Saudi Arabia, if that makes sense. It's more of a publicity show instead of a real show, if that really makes sense. But anyway, that's the way that I would do it. And then AJ Styles can address it on Raw, and then Undertaker can probably make his full return and full sort of attack to build the feud for Mania on a Monday Night Raw. And then obviously if it is Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania, then they could do that in the same way and have maybe Shawn Michaels congratulate AJ Styles on winning in Saudi Arabia, and then perform that stunning super kick, sweet chin music right to AJ's jaw to set up that feud. Now we've got a tag team match announced, as in the New Day defending the tag team titles versus Morrison and Miz. This isn't going to be any surprises. I hope no one else is too excited for it. The Miz and Morrison. Now, I was excited for their return, for John Morrison's return, and sort of their return as a couple, as a tag team. I don't think it's hit the heights as what it should be. I think coming out separately takes away from a tag team for me. Like, if the Hardy Boys came out, they come out together. If the New Day come out, they come out together. Same with the Usos, same with Street Profits, same with Road Warriors. When DX are together, like all the big tag teams, for me, they should come out together. I think just by coming out separately, because they used to come out together. So I don't really know why they aren't. But anyway, it sort of takes away from the tag team for me, and I just don't think they've got the popularity that they should have. Like, trying to be these heels that I don't think John Morrison plays that character quite as well as he probably could do. As we know, the Miz is a great heel. He's a great babyface. He can play both characters. He's a better heel. So I actually thought he'd carry Morrison a little bit, but he hasn't for me. So I don't think there's going to be any surprises. I don't think the New Day is going to lose the titles. The New Day will retain. And then on SmackDown, they teased a feud with the Usos. Now, just before they teamed up for a 8-man tag and were actually teaming, they did have a little bit of a coming together, bit of a square off, bit of a eye-to-eye face-off in the ring on the mics. Now, to me, that is setting up a future feud. I'm hoping that comes pretty much instantaneously after this Saudi event. I think that is pretty reliable. We've seen it happen that many times. We sort of know what we're going to get, but we know we're going to get great mic work from both the New Day and the Usos. We know we're going to get both great in-ring ability from both tag teams. And I feel like the fans, and definitely for me, I always get invested in the feud, even though we have seen it a few times. They are that good and they work that well together that it's well worth doing time and time again. Now, they can have hopefully some stipulation matches in there. Some of the spots they do, they're both willing to put their neck on the line, put their backs on the line for WWE and for the titles to really create them spectacular matches that really the fans want to see. So maybe that's what they're trying to do for WrestleMania, because really I think the tag teams on both brands, it's sort of lacking. I thought Heavy Machinery would be up there, but obviously they've done that silly storyline with Mandy Rose and Otis, what actually turned out to be silly. Obviously I liked it during the time, and then they done that Valentine's Day, which completely ruined it, and I've lost interest. But I thought Heavy Machinery might be up there. So, yeah, so I don't think that the New Day versus Morrison and Miz is going to be anything special. I think the match itself will be good, but I don't think there's going to be any surprises. So that for me is a New Day retain, and then probably a future feud with the Usos. We'll have to see on SmackDown the night after. Keeping with the tag team titles, but moving on to Raw, we've got Seth Rollins and Buddy Murphy defending their titles versus the Street Profits. Now, I can actually see the Street Profits winning, but maybe not at Super Showdown. I, for one, would like to see them win, especially at Super Showdown, because with the other titles, it's a little bit different, or I think it's a little bit different, because I want Naomi to win against Bayley because I don't particularly like Bayley. I think Naomi would be a better champion. Now, with Rollins and Murphy versus Street Profits, I don't think Rollins and Murphy have lived up to what they could have been as tag team titles. And I think that the Street Profits have gained that much momentum and that much popularity. They got much better in the ring. I think they're deserving of it. And then what I'd actually like to see, and I've said this from the beginning when this faction got together, it makes sense for the AOP to be in the tag team title picture as the tag team representing that faction, and then Buddy Murphy being that sort of like mid-card for the USA title, and then Rollins going after the main title. Now, you could even flip that and have it as Murphy potentially going after the main title with Rollins as a coach. You don't have to have Rollins as that main guy. Rollins is that good, especially on the mic, that he could just be a coach. He could be building Murphy up to try and aim for the title. Now, that doesn't mean Buddy Murphy versus Brock Lesnar or Buddy Murphy versus Drew McIntyre, but it sort of creates that little bit of a storyline where he really is a mentor. Because for me, AOP have been irrelevant since they've won the tag team titles. Rollins and Murphy won the tag team titles. So that will bring them back into relevance, and it will make them stronger. Just having a feud, having a proper feud, really for the tag team, because they are a tag team. And then, as I said, having Rollins and Murphy having some sort of other storyline, and then having the Street Profits as champion, and potentially having a feud with the AOP. That's what I would like to see. So, yeah, going back to the prediction, going back to what I think is going to happen. What I think will happen is Rollins and Murphy to retain in Saudi Arabia. What I would actually personally do is get the Street Profits to win, and to win maybe not too clean, but maybe with like an error from Murphy, and then Rollins can address it on Raw straight away, like he does in the first opening scene where they're in the ring as a faction, and he can do some sort of promo about he's the mentor and he's coaching Murphy, and he's going to send the AOP to deal with his dirty work against Street Profits for like a sort of like the rematch clause, but passing the rematch clause onto the AOP. And then all of it's forgotten. That whole match is forgotten. It hasn't detrimented Rollins' character in any way, or Buddy Murphy. It's made AOP look stronger, and it's also propelled Street Profits into a tag team title run, which they're deserving of. Then we've got Brock Lesnar versus Ricochet. Yeah, not too excited for this. I'm not a massive fan of Ricochet. He's a little bit too high-flying for me. Now, I actually think that's more because his promo work is so bad. And he's actually admitted that on Twitter, I think it was, that he can't cut a promo. And bless him, he actually can't. He's not very good on the mic. Someone does need to train him up a little bit. Or just give him a manager. I mean, that is a simple way of getting around people that can't be on the mic. Give him a manager. So, yeah, Brock Lesnar versus Ricochet. I'm sure there's going to be some high-flying stuff. I'm sure some of the flips. I mean, it's spectacular watching it. I just can't get behind the character, and I can't get behind the superstar because I don't find him relatable. I find him a little bit boring. And then you've got to watch someone in the ring that, for me, doesn't actually have much of an identity. Now, I've seen people on social media calling for this not to be a squash match just because it'll harm like Ricochet's character. Which, yeah, I can understand. I don't think it's going to be too much of a squash match, but ultimately it will be. Look at the size difference, look at the ability difference. I think Brock's going to win. It'll probably end up in Ricochet doing some sort of flip, some sort of high-flying jump, and then Brock catching him, doing an F5 or multiple F5s if that's needed, and then getting a clean win. I wouldn't be too surprised if we saw Drew McIntyre. Or at least appear, maybe not attack, but could appear. Because I don't, as I said before, I don't see these Saudi shows as really carrying on and continuing the storylines. They're sort of like a mid-part show, if that makes sense. So I don't really think this match is going to be anything special. And it's probably the match that I'm least excited for, least want to watch, because it will be Brock winning. And I think it will be Brock retaining and then going on to Drew McIntyre at WrestleMania, which I, for one, keeping with the Brits, definitely want to see. And then, of course, to finish off my Super Showdown preview, we've got Goldberg versus The Fiend. Now, I'm going to put it out there. I don't think this is going to be too popular, but this is going to be a terrible match. This is going to be awful. I can't emphasise that enough. I truly believe it. And if I'm wrong, of course, I'll hold my hands up next week and I'll address it. But this is going to be terrible. Apparently, Goldberg is willing to take a clean win off The Fiend to propel his character. I mean, we've seen some terrible matches with The Fiend, unfortunately. And Goldberg, again, has been in some terrible matches, especially of late, because obviously the age and he's older. The matches don't last very long. So, I don't think it's going to be good. The only thing they did well on SmackDown is that they got Goldberg to obviously spear The Fiend, and it made it look like the Fiend was actually hurt. So that was actually quite good. The Firefly Funhouse actually brought back the hammer, a big hammer that the Fiend used to carry around, which was good. We haven't seen that in a while, so I don't know if that's going to make a sort of a comeback into the character, which I hope so, because it's a good tool. Like, as we've seen, some of the big characters in history have always had like a tool. Like Triple H has had the sledgehammer, and Sting had the baseball bat. Mick Foley had Barbie, the baseball bat wrapped in barbed wire. So I think if the big hammer was to make a comeback, potentially give it a name, or at least call it something, because rather than just a big hammer, unless it already has a name that I've missed. But I definitely feel like it could help the Fiend's like character, because of them tools with the other superstars that I've just named. It's so iconic that could also become that sort of icon, that iconic sort of spectacle that when you see it, you totally understand it and visualise that character, which obviously would be the Fiend. I know it's got the mask, and that's already symbolic with the character and with Bray Wyatt. So maybe it's not needed, but I'm a fan. I'm a fan of weapons. I'm a fan of tools. I'm a fan of that stuff. So yeah, I think that would be good. Going back to the actual match, yeah, I think it's going to be quite quick. I can't really see anything happening. If it was me in creative, that Vince McMahon was going, right, hey, you need to sort this match out. I want your ideas on this. I'd have the Fiend win by disqualification. That way he doesn't lose the title. It still keeps Goldberg strong, because I imagine this isn't going to be the last of Goldberg. He does keep popping up now and again, and especially with the rumours that he's going to have a match at WrestleMania. So have it as not Goldberg completely on top, a bit of back and forth, and then a disqualification, potentially with this big hammer that I'm talking about. It makes the Fiend look strong, it makes Goldberg look strong, and it also gives that little bit of depth to the character, a little bit of depth to the match, and really brings out that dark side of the Fiend, which we've seen so many times before. So I don't see any real surprises at Super Showdown in Saudi Arabia. As I said, I'm not too excited for this one. I was more excited for the last ones, just because you had the Brock Lesnar versus Cain Velasquez, which was different, because that was his first match. It was something different. You hadn't seen him there before, and we didn't really know how the match would go, simply because of their UFC, the MMA fight they've had before. Again, Tyson Fury, I'm obviously going to like him, he's a Brit, but that was actually quite a good match, and it was something different. They built it in a different way against Braun Strowman. It felt a little bit more real, where this Saudi Arabia match hasn't got anything. The closest one to it is Goldberg versus The Fiend, but that's not anything out the ordinary, because that's still WWE superstars against one another. But I do think Tyson Fury will make a return to WWE. Whether that will be soon, probably not, especially going off the win that he had on Saturday night, last night, from the time I'm recording this. So yeah, that's my Super Showdown review and preview, and some predictions, and hopefully you like my ideas. What I'm going to do now is get to the news. There's a couple of injury updates that I want to touch on, but as I said before, there's not too much this week in terms of news. It's been very, very highly flooded with sort of predictions and rumours to do with this Super Showdown event. And then once this is out of the way, I can bring back the news, and I can bring back some rumours and predictions going into Elimination Chamber, and then obviously leading up to WrestleMania, and of course just the general chit chat that I bring to these episodes. So here we go. So, it's just a quick injury update. I'm sure you all saw on SmackDown in that Symphony of Destruction match, when Braun Strowman power slammed Shinsuke Nakamura through the piano. That took a bigger bump than what was meant to. As Shinsuke said, the piano was hard. It was harder than both of them. and it won the battle. So he's going to be out for a little while, I believe, unless he's having some quick recovery. And also Samoa Joe is injured, so he's going to be out as well. Now, that isn't anything WWE related. That was actually filming a commercial, an advert. He hit his head in something, I believe. So, and going back to the Royal Rumble, he had some sort of concussion from that. So maybe that's reopened that sort of injury, or even sparked a new one. But anyway, Samoa Joe is injured from that commercial. A return is apparently imminent because he was backstage at SmackDown, I believe, and that's Jeff Hardy. Now, he's been out of action since April due to suffering a severe knee injury. He's had surgery, so by the looks of things, that's all gone well. So when he does return, he's likely to return on SmackDown. He'll be a regular face on the blue brand, and hopefully he's able to stay away from some of the law and some of the personal issues that he's obviously had, and then hopefully he's going to be a mainstay on the brand for quite a while, because he's a consistent superstar. He's fantastic to watch, and he's one of the legends that I don't get tired of actually seeing. So that pretty much ties up the news, because, as I said, there wasn't too much. I didn't want to bring you too many rumours of the WrestleMania matchups just yet, because I want to do some research. I want to do a bit more digging and speak to some people about what is saying, because still it's quite early doors, and then I can bring you rumours with a bit more momentum, a bit more weight behind them, because there's going to be a hell of a lot in the build-up to Elimination Chamber, and especially after that. So yeah, leave that with me. Again, as I always say, if there's anything you want to feed back to me, anything you want me to talk about, give me a tweet, give me a follow, give me a message, give me a DM. My Twitter's at AidWrestle, that's AID Wrestle. And thanks for listening, guys, and have a good week.
You think you know me?